Hello and welcome to Football-Oranje. It's time for a preview of Turkey versus the Netherlands. We're back to preview the Netherlands' upcoming games. We've got the under-21s Euros coming up, and we've got a bit of the Eredivisie to throw in there as well. Thank you so much for all your questions that you sent in. I feel like it's going to be a very busy podcast, so we just need to get right into it. If you're watching us on YouTube, then we're going to be doing this live today, and you can, of course, see us. If you're watching it back, you'll be able to see our faces. You can also listen to this on SoundCloud and iTunes as usual. With all of this coming up for the Netherlands, with the Euros coming up, we have still got some of our merchandise to sell. We've got some Football-Oranje wristbands, and you can find a link to how to get this. It's either pinned to our Twitter profile, or you can go onto the description on YouTube, and you can find a link to click to how to get your own Football-Oranje wristband. It helps support what we do at Football-Oranje. We've got many exciting things coming up in the coming months. It funds the good things that we do. And I'm wearing one myself right now today. Why not? It's got the Netherlands line on, and it's got its own QR code to our website. Now, I think that's enough for me talking. We've got Mike here, who's a Football-Oranje founder, and of course, the Netherlands expert. It's exciting again to be talking about the Netherlands. It's been so long, Mike, and the squad that came in was so underwhelming again. We know that the problems with squad selection, Frank de Boer, but it just persists time and time again. What are your first thoughts on that squad going into these 3 World Cup qualifying games?
My first thought when I saw it was, he's just done what I expected him to do. Like, I didn't expect anything better, and that's just come to. You hope for something better, but you don't get it because you know he's going to make those choices. Then going through Twitter, you see all the expected responses, and I wrote an article about it. Just the fact that it's the same players again and again and again and again, even though if they're not playing well, they're stagnating, they're still selected for the national team, which is just baffling because, you know, this is the Dutch national team. It should be the pinnacle of Dutch football, and if you're playing well, you're the best Dutch centre forward, for example, you should be in the Dutch Netherlands squad. And I'm just a bit baffled by the importance of the under-21 Euros, how that's been made by the KNVB, to leave out somebody like Koopmeiners to go and captain Netherlands there instead of being in the national team. Because for me, I think that they're underestimating these games that are coming up. You know, Latvia and Gibraltar, right, there are 2 wins. Right? We're not going to lose or draw those games. That's just 2 wins in the bag. But Turkey away, for me, is the most important qualifier out of them all. It's the first one. It's away against probably the toughest opponent. So if you win that game, you're setting yourself up to basically head to the World Cup because you're getting through your most difficult tie first. You know, it was only a few years ago that Netherlands played Turkey in the qualifiers and got beat by them, and got hammered by them in Turkey, actually. So you can't underestimate them, and they've had a decent qualification recently as well. They beat France, I think, home and away, or they drew away, I think. So this is a Turkey team that can't be underestimated. And then De Boer comes out picking a squad with what he has with Babel, Luc de Jong, these players who they're not scoring goals, they're not playing well. Then they leave out somebody like Wout Weghorst, who's 17
He's
goals.
the biggest miss, isn't he? He's the one that people have been pointing out the most. And
17.
It's baffling how he's missing.
It truly is. 17 goals in the Bundesliga this season is incredible for any striker. And to let alone be a Dutch striker when the Netherlands is lacking forwards and not to get selected it's insane. And we're going to see what De Boer has to say about it. I think he'll probably give a press conference tomorrow or the next couple of days. I can already know what he's going to say. He's going to say, I'm going with the same players I went with that I know ahead of a tournament, and we're trying to stick with the same squad, blah, blah, blah. But then he doesn't feel bad about bringing in St. Juste, who's playing at Mainz, who are, as far as I'm aware, in the relegation zone in the Bundesliga. And then you've got somebody like Gravenberch coming in to make his debut when he could be playing in the under-21s, and you could have Koopmeiners in this squad. So, yeah, it's just baffling decision after baffling decision. The best players don't get selected for the national team. It's the ones that De Boer knows. And if you're a name, you're in the squad. If you're playing well and he doesn't really know you, you're not getting in, basically.
There's also a bit of a link with the fact that Weghorst play for RZ and Koopmeiners plays for RZ now. Is it anything to do with the fact they didn't play for a top 3 club, Ajax, PSV, Feyenoord? The Florida baseball man put in a question about Weghorst and said, well, is it a personal problem? Because there's surely no other reason. There's no footballing reason why Weghorst is being missed out. But then playing for Wolfsburg and scoring so many goals in the Bundesliga, that rates you more highly than playing for a top 3 Eredivisie club in any case.
Yeah, if it is something that is personal, I don't know what it could be, because De Boer's not worked with him yet, because he's not been in any of his squads so far. So that's 3 squads where he's not been in. Unless he's been told when the last time that he was in the squad that he was acting up or people didn't like him. But then what's the problem with that? You know, he's scoring goals. You just get on with it. It's not all about everyone getting on in the camp and everyone being cautious around each other. You bring in people to fire everyone up, and if Weghorst got a chance, he came in, he's looking to put himself about, and that's good because that makes everyone else be alert. If Luuk de Jong got dropped after being in the squad for so long, then maybe he'd start trying a bit harder to get into that Sevilla squad and start scoring some goals. It makes no sense for these players to just know that they're going to get called up. What's the point of playing well if you're just going to get called up anyway? You know, if Ryan Babel sits on the bench every week for Galatasaray, but at least I'm going to be in the Netherlands squad because Frank de Boer likes me and I'm good in the dressing room. It's crazy to me.
Well, one player that was missing actually from that reasoning from before, Kevin Strootman, he's actually not in the squad this time, which is good. It's a step forward, but it shows Frank de Boer's arrogance, the fact that we still got the likes of Babel in the squad. We haven't got Weghorst in the squad. For some reason, he still thinks he's right to stick with the same players. And we had a couple of questions about who you would select against Turkey. Hopefully, Babel is just there for being around the squad and being a nice fellow and what have you, and he doesn't actually get on the pitch, because there's a really important game against Turkey. And Vlad Alexov was wondering who our front 3 would be against Turkey. And I think if you ask me, I'd choose pace. I'd choose people that are going to be in form. I want Daniel Marlin to start, but no, he won't. And you've also got Memphis, who I think needs to start as well. That's obvious. You've got the likes of Calvin Stengs, who has had a few bad games, but just before coming into the squad had a few really, really good games. So he's looking like he might have a chance of getting some time on the pitch. Who would your front 3 be, Mike?
I agree with you that I'd love to see it being Stengs, Malin, and Memphis for the middle, but I can't see it being that. If we're going with what I want, I would pick that as well. But what I think we're going to get would be Memphis for the middle, Berghuis on the right wing, and then Bergwijn on the left. That's what I think he'll pick, judged on past and just the fact that he likes Bergwijn and he likes Berghuis, which is not too bad because he's in decent form. But yeah, I think he'll go for them because they're more experienced, whereas I think he'll stick with Malin as maybe a second half substitute.
We've also had a question about the lineup in general. I mean, we don't want to go through the whole thing and choose who's going to play, because it's most likely it would be the same as always. The biggest decision will be whether Blind is going to be playing next to De Ligt at centre back, or whether it will be another choice. Do you think that Wijndal's got a chance of starting at left back, or do you think that it's going to be something like a very predictable Joel Veltman, who, to be fair to him, has been playing really well for Brighton, albeit at fullback?
Yeah. If I had to predict it right now, I'd say that the back 4 will be Blind on the left, Veltman and De Ligt in the middle, and then Dumfries on the right. Again, I hope I'm wrong, because that's not the one I want to see. I mean, Wijndal had a great game today against PSV, so I'd like to see him going on the left, but I don't think it'll happen. And Nathan Ake, he should be playing on the left-hand side of the defence, but he's not really playing again for Manchester City. It depends what his fitness is. If he's not 100%, then he might just start on the bench. I'd like to see Ake and De Ligt in the middle, because Ake is also a threat from set pieces. He's scored a few from the pass from the Netherlands, so he's good in the air. So I think that one would work going forward. But yeah, I think that we'll probably see Veltman and Blind in that defence.
two guys who aren't the tallest. And if you've got Cenk Tosun playing for Turkey, I don't know if he's fit or not. It's a Netherlands preview podcast, but he's the kind of guy I don't think Veltman and Blind would want to face. We've got Van Dijk missing, of course. I don't think he's going to make it to the Euros. But we had a question from Luke on Twitter saying that if Van Dijk is fit, will the Euros be a success? I think it's tricky to say, because if he's coming back to fitness just in time for the tournament, I don't think he's going to be ready for it. And I think that they just need to get used to not having him now. And I appreciate that De Ligt is also a very good centre-back, and there has to be a partner for De Ligt. And it's such a shame that Stefan de Vrij is not fit for these qualifiers, because he could have warmed up next to De Ligt and had those 3 games next to him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's such a shame, because he would be the automatic replacement for Van Dijk. And what I think is weird is that I think Van Dijk's now been out for too long that people seem to forget how good he is, because when I tweeted out the news that he was probably not going to play at the tournament, and there was a lot of comments saying, "No, it's fine. We've got De Vrij. We've got other centre back options." These centre back options aren't Van Dijk. These aren't the best centre back in the world. You've got no idea when he plays how calm that defence is and how good he is on the ball. That he's the best in the world, and to miss that for the Netherlands is huge. I mean, he's been huge for them for the past few years. Think about how many goals he scored. A late goal against Germany, for instance, when he goes up there towards the end and gets that header in. You can't replace him. It doesn't matter who it is, if it's De Vrij or De Ligt. They're not Van Dijk. So it's got to be a blow if he misses it. It's got to be a blow if he turns up and he's only half fit. But you've got to give him that chance. You've got to wait and see if he can get back. I do believe that some of the press were saying it's mind games from Jurgen Klopp, and there is probably some truth to that, because Klopp doesn't want him to go to Euros, because he doesn't care about the Netherlands. He doesn't want him to play for the Netherlands at Euros. He doesn't want him there. So he's got to say, like, it's not going to happen. But it's up to Van Dijk, and it's up to the doctors to see how fit he is going in towards April, May. If he comes back in May, plays a game for Liverpool, I'd definitely take him. I'll take him over a St. Juste. I'll take him over a Veltman. So we just need to wait and see how he does.
And these 3 games won't exactly be the biggest test either for centre-backs. Turkey's a tricky one, but I just don't see it being enough of a convincing check to see whether they're good enough to challenge at the Euros. There's a really exciting selection, and that was Gravenberch being selected. There was a question from the Void on Twitter, and he said, "Yeah, well, what do we think? Do we think he deserves a starting place, going straight into that starting 11? We've had turncoat miners around this squad for a long time, and not because he isn't even selected this time. So by that logic, Gravenberch won't be anywhere near starting a game or getting any minutes in the pitch. But Frank de Boer's selection choices might prove otherwise, considering he's plays for Ajax." Yeah.
Well, Gravenberch was in the last squad and he didn't make any minutes, so it's not guaranteed. And I think he will make minutes. I think he'll come on against Latvia or Gibraltar. He might start one of those games. He's not going to start against Turkey. I think for that game, if De Boer has any sense, he'll go with De Roon and De Jong in the middle, because you need to protect that back four. For me, I'd want to go attacking against Turkey, but that game's such a do not lose at all game that I'd even take a draw in it right now, going into next week. But I can't see him just throwing in Gravenberch for his international debut starting against Turkey away. I just can't see it. I think if you go with somebody,
I think he'd handle it though, and I think he'd do very well if he was.
Oh, yeah. He's a great player. I think he's been Ajax's player of the season, apart from Tadic maybe. In the big games, European League games, Champions League games, he's always standing out. I think he'd be great next to Frenkie de Jong. I think in the future, a midfield with Gravenberch and de Jong in it is the way to go. Just need to find that number 10 going forward. I think this game will be Wijnaldum. We'll see what happens with Van de Beek if he gets back into form. But yeah, for me, Gravenberch is going to be such an important player for Netherlands for years to come, and I want to see him next to Frenkie de Jong. I want to see that dynamic working and see how it does. I think we'll see it in the later games, not so much in the Turkey one.
I agree. There's a chance to play him in those games against Latvia and Gibraltar. They're not obviously the most difficult ones. And I'd hope that some of the players who will be going to the Euros get that chance to get some minutes. If Gravenberch is serious about going to the Euros, then he needs to have his debut. He needs to play a full 90 in a Netherlands shirt. There was a question about... There's something about Ryan Babel. I think it was someone called Alex just saying, Ryan Babel, discuss. I think we'd rather not discuss Ryan Babel, to be totally honest.
There's got to be one of these podcasts about There's got to be one of these podcasts about the Netherlands when we don't actually have to mention his name ever again. It's going to be a great day. It might be 3-4 years in the future at this point, but there's going to be a time where he's not even anywhere near the squad, and it's going to be great. Saying that, if Babel comes on and scores 3 or 4 goals, his goal scoring record for the Netherlands is better than Luc de Jong's is, so it's possible. But like his selection this time is even more baffling than it was before. We'll see what De Boer says again. He's great in the dressing room apparently, so that's more important than actually playing on the pitch apparently. So yeah, but one day we'll get there when Babel's not in the squad.
True, triumph of the day. I had some questions from Hendrik about the formation that the Netherlands will be playing. I imagine it'll be a 4-3-3. I don't think Frank de Boer's going to start changing that now, especially when he needs to go attacking in these kind of games. And there was one about Calvin Stengs and Noah Long, because Long wasn't included, but Stengs was. Why is that? Isn't that a bit of a tricky one? I mean, if Lang had been scoring those goals and assisting those goals in the Eredivisie, you'd think that he'd have been selected.
Yeah, I think that for me, the under 21 Euros being on at the same time is giving De Boer an excuse to not pick some players. It's giving him a way out. So he's like, oh, well, he might not have played this week, so we thought it'd be better with him to be with the under 21s, which is nonsense, because the main squad should always be where the best players go, not the under 21s. So I would have picked Noah Lang, but a few things gave De Boer an excuse. The under 21 Euros, Lang getting Corona recently, that gave him an excuse as well. And the fact that since he's come back from Corona, he's had a couple of games where he's maybe not played that great. I think today he got sent off as well. So these little things will give De Boer ammunition to why he wasn't selected. You can come to his press conference tomorrow and go, look, you got sent off yesterday. That's why he's not being selected. There's still some issues there. So yeah, I would have had him in there because of his form, but I think De Boer has a way out on that one.
One that gets me is Gravenberch over Koopmeiners. Has he genuinely been better than Koopmeiners this season?
I think you struggle to name a Dutch midfielder who has been better than Koopmeiners this season. I know that
because the two midfielders are very close. They're obviously slightly different midfielders.
Yeah, but you see what Koopmeiners does week in, week out for AZ, the influence he has, what he does off the ball, his guidance to the players on the pitch. He's always moving, he's always shouting, he's always dictating play. I know that some people don't rate Koopmeiners because of his lack of speed and his turn on the ball, but I would have him in the Netherlands squad every day of the week. Put him next to Frankie de Jong and just watch the two of them just ping balls around the pitch. That would be fantastic. His ability on the ball is tenfold that of Darun or somebody like Tony Vilhena, who was named in the preliminary squad. Like Koopmeiners is on a different level to both of them on the ball, so I'd have him in there every time. But again, the under 21 Euros giving him an excuse, which shouldn't be used because you can't pick up Gravenberch and not Koopmeiners and then say it's because it's under 21 Euros, because if the under 21 Euros is that important, Gravenberch would be there as well. So yeah, I know that Koopmeiners, I saw you tweeting earlier, he wasn't too happy about his non-selection, and it's fair enough because he is 23. A 23-year-old in the under 21s, it's probably not what he wants, and he's good enough to be playing in the national team, so you can understand why he's not happy about it. But he's just got to go to those under 21 Euros and do as best as he can, and then sign for a big club that's not AZ, and then he'll get picked every week. Yeah,
it's bizarre because that will happen, won't it? He'll play for a bigger club and then he'll be selected even if he plays poorly. Bergwijn's a perfect example of that. Bergwijn hasn't been standing out at Spurs. I'm sure many of the Spurs players haven't, but he gets selected so easily now. Whereas at PSV, to begin with, it was quite tricky for him to sort of force his way in. It's bizarre this way that it works. I know that they're training at a high level, but it doesn't mean that they're playing at a better level sometimes. We've been talking about the Euros quite a while for the under-21s. So I think we should have a little chat about that. There's 3 games coming up in the group stage. And then if the under-21s get past that, they'll play again in June for the actual knockout rounds of the competition. So there's games against Romania, Germany and Hungary. How do you rate the chances of the under-21s? We even had a question from somebody, and I think it was Abdul. He was saying that the quality in the 21s is arguably better than the senior side. I think he needs to be careful what he's saying there. Like, it's not, if he played them against each other, I think that the under-21s wouldn't win. But there's potential for the future there, isn't there?
Oh yeah, the under-21 squad is fantastic. All over the pitch, the strength. So I think that they go to that tournament, for me, is one of the favourites to win it.
For sure.
I think it's easy for foreign press to highlight England and France because those squads the players are playing in the Premier League or in the big top 5 leagues in Europe, but most of the under-21 squad is playing in the Eredivisie, so it might not get that much attention. But this squad is unbelievable. All over the pitch compared to the under-21 squad that was last in the tournament had like Strootman, Wijnaldum, and Depay was a part of that. So these players went on to play for the full team. I think it's the same with this squad. I think they go into this tournament, they should beat Romania, they should beat Hungary. The game against Germany will be a tough one, but given the experience that the players have in the squad, I can see them doing very well. Then you go towards June with a chance of winning it. I mean, you only have to look at the players that weren't selected in the squad. Joey Veerman, although there might be other reasons for that, because he seems to have turned down the invitation. You got Ihataren, who's out, which I don't agree with. I think he could have been in there over Ekkelenkamp, who's probably an average player for me. So there's some baffling decisions by this time Van der Looy. But all over the pitch, you got Botman in defence, Koopmeiners in midfield, Boadu up front, 3 of them. And then you got Brobbey on the bench coming off. Yes, a very good squad. Lang on the wing, Gakpo on the other wing. You can bring on players like Justin Clive. I know he's not everyone's favourite, but to have that option, it's great in an under-21 squad. And even at the back, you got players like Pierre Rauda, who's just came into the squad, who's having a great season for Feyenoord. Malacia on the left, backer who plays at PSG, all fantastic talents. And then goal, you got Bayo as well, a great young goalkeeper. So all over the squad, it's very strong, and I'm very excited to see them actually playing next week.
Yeah, nice summary there of the best players in the squad as well. They're all going to be in the thoughts of any future Netherlands manager. I didn't say Frank de Boer because I don't think he'll be there for too long as boss. There's a few questions about players who are around the fringes of the squad. There was one about Pascal Stauk potentially coming into squad at Leeds, Frimpong from Celtic. I don't know. Frimpong, sorry, he's gone to Leverkusen now, hasn't he? I haven't seen him since he's left to go to Germany, but at Celtic, I thought not that exciting a player. Not better than Denzel Dumfries, for sure. And who else? Yeah, Joey Veerman was another one as well. He's not been in the senior squad, all the under-21s. What's the reason behind that? Do you think that he genuinely turned it down, the idea of playing for one of the two teams?
He did before, so he did turn down the under-21s the last time they came around. Van der Looy was asked about it and said that Veerman had to explain it himself. He wasn't going to do it for him. And Veerman came out and said that for personal reasons he didn't want to be part of the squad. There's something going on there that only Veerman knows and only Van der Looy knows, and it's between them. I don't think he turned down the full squad. I don't think he's that level yet where he was going to get selected for the actual Netherlands squad. So I don't think he turned that down, but he's definitely turned down the under-21s before, and the rumours are that he's done it again. What that reason is, whether he had a fallout with Van der Looy, he had a fallout with some of the players, he's got something going on off the pitch that when he's not playing for Heerenveen, he wants a little break. I don't know, but yeah, I think that he's a terrific player that, again, we're going to see him mentioned more towards the Netherlands squad when he gets a move. If you play for Heerenveen, you're not getting selected for the national team at the moment, which is a shame because the best players should get selected. But yeah, it doesn't work like that. It works in other countries. If you're playing well for Brighton, you can get selected for England. If you're playing well for Nice in France, you can get selected for France. If you're playing well for Eibar in Spain, you're getting selected for the national team now. But in the Netherlands, if you're playing for one of those ones that are not the top 4, you're not getting selected. So the attitudes towards the Eredivisie has to change a little. But until then, Veerman's not getting selected until he gets that bigger move.
I think that the attitude has changed a little already, though, with more players being selected from the Eredivisie, just full stop, which is really good. I don't know if that was a signal of how poor the Eredivisie was, though, 5, 6, 7 years ago. I'm just thinking back to those years where not a lot of the top players from the Eredivisie were selected, but now there seems to be a lot more of them, and particularly with RZ players being picked as well. That's a good sign. We talked a lot about the Netherlands. There was quite a few questions in, so I'm sorry if I didn't answer your questions, but there's a lot more things that have been going on in the world of Dutch football. And the main thing that happened in terms of club football was Ajax reaching the Europa League quarterfinals, where they'll be playing Roma. So that is massive. The fact that they've now 7th best in the UEFA coefficient ranking, that's brilliant. And there's a brilliant game to look forward to with Roma. We're not going to preview the game itself now, but there was a few questions in about that. And one was from Cam, one of our fans for a long time, Cam, and he said, "Oh yes, thoughts on Netherlands moving to 7th in the coefficient, and if they'll be able to stay there." And of course, he wants the Ajax PSV final and AZ to make those 4 European places this season, so there's another chance of more points next season. How important is it to be 7th, Mike? Because it doesn't make a huge difference in terms of European places. There is the nice thing of the cup winner going into the group stage Europa League again, and there's another one as well. Oh yeah, so the team that makes it through as the winner of the Eredivisie would be seeded for the Champions League, most likely in future seasons too. Is it a good thing that in the long term to be the 7th best league in Europe?
Yeah, I think the higher up you can go, the better. I think that the gap's now closing because of Ajax on the top 6 teams, top 6 nations. I think that right now Portugal's way out in front. It's going to be tough to get to that. But if the way Ajax are playing in Europe these days, to me, that there's nobody in this Europa League competition that I'd say they should fear, and they can go on to win it. Like, there's no doubt in my mind that they can win this tournament. Until you get
the favourites.
On paper, you'd say Man United are the favourites for me because of the squad that they've got and the players that they've got. Then you look at the other side of the draw and you've got Arsenal there. I think for me, them two might come above Ajax in the favourites list. I think Ajax on the day can beat either of them. But for me, I'd say Ajax shouldn't fear them and can beat them. But if you're going to say who's the favourite for the tournament, I wouldn't say automatically Ajax. I think they can beat Roma. Definitely over the next 2 legs, and I think even the Italian press are a bit the things that they've been saying. But what I was going to say, but yeah, for me, if the Netherlands are going to catch up with Portugal, you need to see PSV, Feyenoord, and AZ reaching the level where maybe not reach the level Ajax are because that's such a high level, but close to that. Right now, AZ could get knocked out by a team from Slovakia. That's where we're at right now. Same with Feyenoord. I've seen it before. They watched the trends in a couple of years ago. And PSV, Ajax, and Feyenoord, when they come into European competition, something goes wrong and they lose their heads. Then you see it when Vitesse get in, when Utrecht get in, and when any smaller teams get in. We saw it once.
Quickly, isn't it?
Yeah, they go out straight away. As soon as they meet a half decent team, they can go out. Even not even half decent teams, sometimes they get put out by, even Scottish teams can sometimes knock them out, which is a disgrace. But until you get to that level where some of them are reaching the group stages and going to the knockout stages like AZ, PSV, Feyenoord, then it's not going to catch up with Portugal. But right now, Netherlands is probably better than the rest of the leagues in Europe, and it's another reason why a Beneliga shouldn't happen, because why should the Netherlands join up on Belgium when the Netherlands league is doing so much better than them? I can see it from their point of view, because Club Brugge right now are way out in front of their league. It's a one-horse race and they're not doing very well in Europe. So of course they see combining with the Netherlands as a way to improve them going forward. TV right money for probably the Belgian league isn't probably that great. So I can see it from their point of view. But right now, the Dutch league is improving. It's getting better, mainly because of Ajax. But that will then filter down to the rest of the clubs as well eventually. So, yeah, the way it's going right now, being 7th best league in the world is great. And I can only see it getting better if those clubs below Ajax can start performing and just making smarter decisions, for me.
that's how they're going to compete with the next lot, which is Portugal and France above them in the rankings. I don't think that it's necessary for the Netherlands to start climbing even higher and higher in the league rankings. But 7th, 6th is brilliant. That's amazing, and why not just stick around there for a little while? In terms of the game itself, Roma are going to be, I think, a tough opposition. They're not top of the Serie A. They're a little further down, but they're a team that have some very good players. And there's a question from Daidu. He says that there's a tough quarterfinal coming up, and especially if Roma get their injured players back in the squad. They're also the last Italian team in European competitions, so might want to put their heart into it. The Netherlands have Ajax their last team, so I guess it's the same argument. But what are you thinking at the moment? Over 2 legs, you seem very confident.
Yeah, it might just be because I've not seen that much of Roma over the season. I know they've got some good players, and Rick Karsdorp obviously plays for them week in, week out. But just the way that Ajax are playing right now, the way they absolutely dismantling teams, some people are going into that game against Young Boys saying that, Young Boys are a tough team. They never showed it against Ajax because Ajax never let them, because Ajax played them off the pitch from minute 1 to 90 of that first leg, and then that win the tie was over. Second leg was a bit more ropey, but Ajax still got the win. And that's been the case for Ajax pretty much all this year. They just win. That's all they're doing, except for 2 games against PSV, which were drawn. So yeah, just for me, the way they're playing, the way they're attacking, the options they have all over the pitch and on the bench, I just can't see them not doing well against Roma. But maybe that's just because I don't know Roma that much, and I'm underestimating them. But yeah, I don't see how I actually fear them. I think that they can beat anyone on this form. If they can go toe-to-toe with Atalanta, who are a better side than Roma, then I don't see why they can't go for it.
We'll have to get an expert on Roma onto a podcast in future and see what they say about Roma. Now, there's a few questions coming in live on YouTube whilst we're doing this. One of them was from Red Rum saying, "What's the news about Mazraoui recovering, and could he play against Roma?" Is it necessary with Tim playing quite well and Wrench coming in and doing all right too? Two very good young players. We've got Sean Cliver as well with backup, but not the best. Mazraoui's the best option. Do you think he could recover in time?
I think it's possible. We've seen it's a couple of weeks. Got a couple of weeks to recover. I think it'll be close. But as you say, if he doesn't make it, Jury and Timber could play out there, and I would have no problems with that, because Timber's been absolutely fantastic since he moved into the Ajax 11. Then you got Wrench, who may have had a tricky game against Young Boys the other day, but I think he's a fantastic talent, and he'll be the Ajax right back going forward after Mazraoui leaves. But the thing about Mazraoui is he always seems to appear in the big games, big European games. He seems to excel. So these are the ones that you want him in, because he seems to have that extra edge. But if he's there, he's not, and Ajax have the options. As I said, Ajax have so many options all over the pitch that one player drops out, they've got somebody else that can come in and do a job. So I don't see it as being be all and end all if Mazraoui doesn't eventually make it.
Sure. There's more questions about the Netherlands that I can answer towards the end of the podcast. One big, here's just one that came in right this second, actually, about the Ajax game before we move on. Looks like, that the Roma might have a chance because Italian clubs in general haven't performed well over the last few years. Yeah, could stand them in good stead, Frank. So one more bit of Eredivisie news was AZ beating PSV this weekend. Another big one for PSV to lose. That's 16 toppers in a row that they've not won. Whereas ours are the other way around, and they've gone from not winning a topper under John van der Brom to now actually doing pretty well in these games, but they're doing less well against the mid-table teams. Really nice to see some Dutch international players on the pitch in the AZ PSV, and the ones that stood out were the ones that played for AZ. We already touched on Turncoat Miners today, but he was one of the standout players. He had one brief lapse in concentration where he got the ball away. But apart from that, pretty good again. Boadu, pretty good again. And Calvin Stengs was having one of his better games again. I still stand on my point about Stengs, that I think that he he does get lazy in games, and I do think he doesn't do enough defensively. I still think that he's quite inconsistent, that he plays well some games and then not well on some others. But he played well today and made sure that he was selected for the Netherlands with justified reasons. What were your thoughts on the game, Mike? And what do you think about RZ and PSV coming towards the end of the season?
I think AZ in midweek Findal said that they've got the second best squad in the Eredivisie and they're going to finish second, and I agree with him. I think that all the momentum right now is with AZ going forward. I think that over the pitch up front, they've got goals. Carlson did really well today. His goal was good. And then set up Kip Miners as well, so he got a goal and assist. You had Vindal playing well left back. Hazidiakos being out for the season, that's a blow. But then you got Letcher coming in today, and he did very well. You got Bizot in goals, stood out today, probably a reaction to not getting picked for the Netherlands squad. He had a good game. So yeah, I think, and then Frederick Mitso is just one of the most underrated players in the Eredivisie. You never hear him getting talked about, but once again today, it's just he does the jobs everyone else hates, and he's always there, and he's always playing well. And having Danny DeVitt as well back as an option off the bench is great. I think he'll eventually take his place back from Gudmundsson in there. But if AZ are winning, why change it just now? So I think going forward, I know they've got to play Ajax coming up, but if you're going to tell me right now who's going to finish second, I'd go AZ. I think PSV dropped points several times more this season. Again, I just can't get my head around Roger Schmidt. For some reason, I can't. I just do not agree with any decisions he's making. He doesn't change things. He sticks. He doesn't seem to have a plan B. He has his favourite players to play week in, week out, even if they're not playing well. He doesn't take any of them off. He doesn't make silly substitutions. In some games, he doesn't make enough substitutions. Like today, going into the second half, Cody Gakpo came off, and if I was PSV and I was thinking, right, Gakpo's coming off, I've got a bench that's got Madueke, now Hatterin on it. One of them two would come on. I picked Vertessen, and I need somebody to explain to me why Vertessen's getting games, because I've not seen anything from him.
He tries his damn hardest, but he's got no quality.
Yeah, from what I've seen, he's not scored a goal yet. I know he had that one disallowed. I think it was against Ajax, but he's not scored a goal yet. He's not assisted anything yet. He might run around. Ryan Thomas runs around, and everyone seems to think that Ryan Thomas is great. Whenever I slag him off on Twitter, I get a lot of hate from PSV fans saying he's putting in a lot of effort. I mean, that's great. I can run around the pitch all day if you want me to, but it's not about that. It's about winning games, and PSV aren't doing it. Then you look at the bench, and Madueke's staying in there, Hatterin staying on there till late in the game. This doesn't make sense to me. Madueke is one of the best young players in the Eredivisie. Why is he not coming on earlier? And it's the same again, week in, week out. You got two defensive midfielders in the field, neither of them protecting the defence, neither of them doing anything, but they still play. Why? Who knows? It just doesn't change anything. Doesn't work. He's had a bad game 2 weeks in a row. Who cares? He doesn't come off. He'll play next week. It's just week in, week out. Bad decision from Schmidt, and I can't see it getting any better. I think that Schmidt's going to be one of these managers. Right now, it's going downwards. It's just going to keep going downwards until PSV go, right, that's enough. That's it. You're gone. I can't see it come to the summer where he then goes, right, I'm bringing in all these players, and suddenly it's going to go great, and they're going to challenge Ajax. Can't see it. I can see that there's going to be rumblings. Players are going to leave. Hatterin's going to leave. I know there's a comment in the comments about him being maybe a bit childish if he's what he said to Abukwal is true. Then obviously there's probably question marks about Hatterin's attitude at the moment. But these are the players that if you're PSV and you want to challenge Ajax, you need to sell your best players for the most money to then replace players. Hatterin's a potentially 40-50 million pound player. If Schmidt comes in, doesn't see him in training, then just drops him, and then he leaves on for a tiny amount in the summer to go to Ajax, that's a problem. But Schmidt just seems to have free reign in Eindhoven right now with nobody challenging him, and then I can only see it end in one way, and it's going to be him getting sacked, and PSV aren't going to prosper because right now they're not making Champions League.
I can see your arguments, Mike. I still think that they were so good defensively around Christmas time. We were praising them. We had their defenders in our team of the half season, but then attacking wise, it seemed like it wasn't clicking. They had a couple of players that injured, to be fair. And now it's the other way around, where they seem to create loads of opportunities but don't finish them. I think I can't always be critical of teams if they're creating lots of chances, because at least they're making them, and it's just sometimes down to luck that they can't score them. But you've got all the players back fit. They're going to be scoring goals. But defensively, today they lost 2-0 because of mistakes, because of again, Arsenal being allowed to create too many opportunities off themselves, so there wasn't enough in the midfield to stop that. Rosario made a couple of really good interceptions today, to be fair to him, but he's usually one of the weaker links in the side. Didn't see Sangare do too much today, and the back four was missing Baskagli. So it's little things in the tactics, I think, that are costing PSV at the moment, and whose fault is that? It's Roger Schmidt. Like you said, I don't see it going any better in the summer. I think if they get some players in, it will be a very expensive summer for PSV for them to just sack Schmidt anyway in October or November when they're 4th place or 5th place. That's what I can see happening at the moment. I can't see much different from that happening. Shall I get some questions about Netherlands up, Mike, so we don't have to talk about Roger Schmidt? He's had an interesting season, hasn't he? He's just always instances with Bas Nijhuis was particularly interesting, because Nijhuis was making some strange refereeing decisions, but Schmidt wasn't covering himself in much glory. He sounds to me like someone who is in denial and thinks he's right, but probably isn't.
Yeah, I think we've got parallels right now between a Roger Schmidt and a certain national team coach that everyone doesn't seem to like as well. But for me, the problem is you got sections of PSV fans that agree with everything Schmidt does, and you got sections of PSV fans that don't. So it's weird. Like him coming in the summer, I thought, wow, this is going to be great. We've got like a coach coming in that's outside the box. We saw what he did in Austria and how he dismantled Ajax with Salzburg, and thought, right, this guy's coming into Eredivisie. It's going to be great for Eredivisie, but it's not. So it's just for me that he seems to be, everything is an excuse, and it's not him that's doing anything wrong. It's stuff all around him that's going wrong. He just wants an excuse. Hat-tricks an excuse. Referees are an excuse. VAR is an excuse. It's not anything to do with his tactics. His tactics are great. 4-2-2-2 is a revolution. It's going to be the greatest thing ever. But it's just not for me. And PSV could be doing much more better with a 4-3-3 formation, in my opinion.
Yeah. There's much more that can be taken out of this team. Even more at Daniel Marlin, who scored lots of goals this season, but I feel like he could still be doing more, still be doing better.
Because him and Zahavi get in each other's way as well. The two of them, when Zahavi has a good game, Malin doesn't have a good game. When Malin has a good game, Zahavi doesn't have a good game. It's no other way.
No. Let's bring up some stuff from YouTube then. Thanks to everyone that sent in a question on Twitter. And sorry if we didn't get through to them. But there's a couple about selection again. We've talked about who's going to be selected in the 11. And we talked about as well why certain players are selected but others aren't. And that is just not what we can answer. We just think that it's Frank de Boer's poor choices, and we'll always have an excuse if he selects certain players. And here's one about, if the Netherlands don't beat Turkey, then de Boer must be out. And it's just not going to happen, though, is it? As much as some fans might want that, we knew that something like this might happen. We've got to give Frank de Boer a bit of time. If there's not 3 wins out of 3 out of these games, then yes, we can definitely raise questions. But he's not going anywhere unless they lost all 3 games.
I think people forget that the results coming into this international period have actually been pretty good. So you could actually give de Boer some slack on some of the results that he's had so far. But it's just team selection that's the weird thing. So, I mean, we're all sitting here criticising him, but if they win 3 games out of 3, then he's been proved right. So it's yeah, so could work that way.
But then Abdul was saying, if can he be sacked if they lose points against Turkey and Latvia? No, I agree.
No, I don't think so. He's got to be in charge of the Euros regardless of anything. If they have a really bad Euros, go out in maybe the first knockout round or even the group stage, then I think that there's that evaluation point that they've agreed after the Euros that he could then go. But he's got to be in charge of the Euros regardless of what happens in the next 3 games.
And there's a question. Sorry, so a comment from someone from Turkey wishing good luck. And both teams can qualify to the World Cup. Thanks, Alex, and best luck to you in the Euros, unless you meet the Netherlands, in which case we wish that you lose. There's a question from Barry Premi about Ihataren and commenting under Abed Lau's photo, which was captioned "International break with Morocco." And is it true that so he put S ... and 2 love hearts, but then changed it to 2 love hearts straight after, and he also added a second comment afterwards saying that could it have been that the S stood for soon? I don't know. They both speak Dutch. Imagine it was something that begins with an S in Dutch, you'd think. But the post was in English. Maybe it was soon. Mm-hmm. But he certainly wants to get involved with the Moroccan discussion. And with the way he's feeling at the minute, you can't blame him, can you? That he's been forced out to this. But then he hasn't shown his form with PSV, whether he's been able to or not. Even if he's given 10 minutes, he doesn't show a lot, does he, for PSV? So is he the world-class talent we all thought he was last season? I thought he was amazing. But maybe his development's been hindered by Schmidt. Yeah,
I think that there's an argument that Schmidt coming in, there's been problems there and that it's affected Ihataren. And then if you went to Ajax, would we see a different Ihataren next season, playing in like a formation that he knows well? Then yet he could be a great player for Ajax and get sold 40-50 million and becomes the player that we all thought he was going to be. But this is the thing that frustrates me the most about the KNVB. They don't see things like this coming. They don't care about things like this. They don't react quick enough. That's why we lost Ziyech. It's why they lose players left, right and centre, because they do. The KNVB are quite, well, I lack of a better word, stubborn with stuff like this. And they don't act on it. So we had the chance to cap him a few international periods ago, and he sat on the bench for a few games. And ones that are easily winnable, he just needed to come on in the 90th minute. It'd have been fine. He would have made his debut. But it didn't happen, and now we're in this situation. I think that something went wrong with leaving him out of the under-21 squad. I think that was a stupid decision. I think that Van de Boer could have went to Van der Looy and said, look, we're not going to pick Ihataren for this international period, but he's a really important player for our future. So can you please put him into your under-21 squad? If you do that, we'll give you Coop Miners, we'll give you Botman, we won't select them, they can come with you. Then he could have left out of Kellenkamp and then had Ihataren in there, showing a bit of confidence from the KNVB that, look, we know we're not ready for the main squad right now, but there's under-21s. Go there, do great, bring your confidence back to PSV, show the player that you are to Roger Schmidt in a 4-3-3 formation, do your best, and then everything could have been great. But leaving them out, the under-21s, is a signal to them that, right, you might get left out of the future main squads as well. And then Morocco will be on the phone to him, trying to tempt him constantly. Some of their players might be friends with him and they might be trying to tempt him as well. It's all just extra temptation for him. I think that Ihataren's probably a player that will feel slighted by this, and he might be a bit angry right now that he got left out of the under-21 squad, and then that might be sort of thing to push him towards Morocco. I think something similar happened to Ziyech. The fact that he wasn't selected for Netherlands might have ended up pushing him towards Morocco. If that happens, then yeah, it's another case of the KVB being stupid.
Ziyech was in his 20s though, wasn't he? He was 23-ish, like that, and he was playing exceptionally well and could not have done any more to get into the squad and get onto the pitch. And Ihataren, I don't think has really had that opportunity yet to show himself. He had last season, which is amazing, and he should have been capped. I agree with you. It was the Dutch FA that should have definitely have made that happen, and it should have been done. But I wonder what the response would be when he just tried to go opposite. It does sound like that he's thinking about a switch to Morocco. And there was a couple of comments here about him a bit further, just saying that he's right to bench at the start of the season, but maybe not so now that he's had his chance to show remorse. Maybe he's not getting selected by Oranje because they have contact with Schmidt, and Schmidt has literally told them what kind of things he's been doing, what he's been up to, and maybe it's been trying to be hidden from the media because it's how bad it is of whatever he's doing. But he's a professional footballer. You think that he wouldn't be doing something that crazy when he's a teenager, especially if he's had such a great development already, that he would be doing things like this.
But it was kind of leaked in the press what he was up to, and to me, it didn't seem that bad. The things like when PSV got knocked out the Europa League, he congratulated some Ajax players. I mean, they're friends from the Netherlands youth teams. I mean, it doesn't sound that bad. When he was left out the game against Olympiacos, I think he made some comments towards some of his teammates and didn't support them in the right way. But he lost that game. I mean, why would he support him? And then some of the players probably played terrible. And then if he's not getting picked, then he might maybe wonder why he's not getting picked over somebody like Ryan Thomas or Vitesse, who then helped PSV get knocked out. So, I mean, you got to have an edge to be a top footballer. Maybe Ihatron has that edge. Schmidt doesn't like it. I don't know. It's just something that we're never maybe not going to know. It'd be interesting if during this international period, if somebody can get an interview with Ihatron. PSV will probably block that from happening. But it'd be interesting to hear what he's got to say on all this, because we've not actually heard from him recently. So yeah, I think if he got asked why he was left out or banished from the PSV squad for a game, see what he says about that, and then see what he says about getting left out the under-21s, if that's affected him in any way, then we might know. But until that happens, it's just all speculation at this point. And maybe that's just that comment under Abuklaw's Instagram, maybe that's just a mistake, but it does look like he was meant to be saying soon, and that's just maybe a bit of petulance from him. But next international period comes, if Netherlands select him, then that could be end of story. But the next international selection is the European Championship, so whether that's actually going to happen is we'll see.
Same goes for any player that wants to try and get into that squad too. That the chance to get into that squad, the gate is now closed. You're not going to see like Turncoat when he's getting in there now, because that was his chance now to get into that squad. I mean, he has been selected before and made minutes, and yet he hasn't been put into the squad this time. The players like him are missing. And do you look at the squad though and think there's not enough quality there, or do you think that this team can still challenge for the Euros? As a last question, I guess, for this podcast, quite a big one. Can they get to the last four? Can they win the Euros with a squad like this? I think if I'd asked you a year ago, you would have said that the squad that was there then absolutely would have done it. You didn't have Memphis though, did it?
I think for me, it's hard because there's quality there. Frankie de Jong's one of the best midfielders in the world. You got Wijnaldum ahead of him, who always plays out of skin in a Netherlands shirt at number 10. You got Memphis, who can score the goals. At the back, you've got De Ligt. Hopefully, you got Van Dijk. But if you don't have Van Dijk, you've got De Vrij. That's strong. In goal, you've got Sillerson, who's a good goalkeeper. Safe pair of hands. You got Stekelenburg, who, I called it when he came in. He could be making the Netherlands squad if he played well for Ajax, and he has been playing well for Ajax. So you've got three good goalkeepers there. The wing backs are decent. You got Wijndal there, he's good, but then you got Blind, who's a good ball playing left back, maybe a bit slow. That would be my worry against the top nations. You got Dumfries on the right, again a bit of a worry against the top nations. You could probably get at him. If you're Kylian Mbappe, you can get at this Netherlands defence regardless of who's in it. But the big worry for me is who plays up front alongside Memphis, because Babel's not good enough for the Euros. Luke de Jong at this moment is not good enough for the Euros. Then you got Stengs, Bergwijn, Berghuis. Bergwijn's not playing, full stop, but he's still going to get selected. Van de Beek's not playing, full stop, but he's still going to get selected. These are the positions that worry me, because going into a tournament, you need forwards that are confident, scoring, playing well, and Netherlands don't have that at the moment. You got Quincy Promes, who was just recently dropped after being horrible all season for Ajax, and then he goes and scores a couple of goals for Spartak. I'm glad he wasn't back in. But the worry for me is definitely the front line. I just don't see enough quality there to actually hurt the top nations defensively. And I think that he came up against France or Germany, possibly even in England at the moment. I know Netherlands beat England a couple of years ago, and I think they could beat England again, but it's the Frances and Germanys, the Belgiums. I just don't see this Netherlands side beating them. I don't think you win European Championships if your striker option off the bench is Luke de Jong, and you continuously pick Ryan Babel. You just don't win tournaments. And then I agree with you. I think that this squad that we've seen, apart from maybe the injured players coming back, is what we're going to see at the Euros now. I don't think he's going to make any major surprises going forward. So yeah, I think that this team's good enough for maybe quarterfinals at the best, I think, now. Whereas I was quite confident, say, a couple of years ago.
Well, what could be significant is the team spirit. If you see something similar to 2010, where they didn't have the best players in the world, they still made an exceptional run because of the team spirit. And I'll always think back to, this wasn't 2010, was it? This would be the 2014 World Cup, which again was another great run. But, you know, like Dirk Kuyt playing like left wing back, whatever it was, that kind of team spirit, it doesn't matter who's playing where, they're just going to give it their all. And then you could see a run happen in the Euros. And of course, football is always about luck. So there's always also that factor too. And Netherlands need all of these things to align for anything to happen in any case.
Yeah.
But the key concern is that they can't beat a Belgium or an England.
Yeah. I think the Netherlands of 2010 also had options off the bench. You could bring Huntelaar on. You could bring a young Memphis Depay on who scored against Australia and was doing well in games. This Netherlands squad lacks that spark off the bench for me. There's not anyone on there to be like, right, this guy can come on and change the game. You bring Berghuis on, you gotta get more of the same, not much pace. That's what I think is what's missing. You need somebody that's coming on, gets at defenders, takes the ball, runs at people, does something a bit different. Somebody like Noah Lang is that, but he's probably not going to get selected now. So yeah, that's what I'm thinking right now. I think quarterfinals are the most, mainly because it's an easy group.
Yeah. The final things then, people are just saying that Koeman should be a starter, at least on the bench. I agree with you, Dave. And he also wishes that Iron Robin was fit. And the last thing as well, about will Stengs get favoured because of the whole relationship he's got with Frank de Boer's family? You never know. We did say at the start, didn't we, this could happen?
You never know, but Stengs, he's a good player. Let's leave it at that. When he plays for Netherlands, he does do well. And when he's on fire for AZ, he's a great player. He just needs to be more consistent. He's not getting that. He's not Ryan Babel getting into that squad. You know, him getting in is more confusing of where Calvin Stengs. Stengs can change a game if he's in the right mind frame. So I agree with Stengs getting in the squad. I don't think it's just because he's dating Frank de Boer's daughter.
All right, Mike. Well, thanks, Jeremy, for this. And I think that I'm gonna tie you down live on air. We're gonna have to do a few more of these kind of little things as the games come up. Maybe some match reviews once we're done. Some post-match reactions. Those 3 games coming up will be good to do for the Netherlands. And if you missed the start of the podcast, I did advertise our Football-Oranje wristbands. It does help support what we do at football-oranje.com. We can afford new things with things like this if you're able to buy one of these. Don't worry if you can't, of course. But there's links either pinned to our Twitter page or onto the YouTube description. So do get yourself one of these wristbands ready for the Euros, the Euro 2020 wristband with the Netherlands and our QR code to get onto our website. So that's how you can support what we do at Football-Oranje. Links are available to go and get one. Thank you to those that have just recently bought some in the past few weeks too. Get ready for the Euros with your own wristband. Right, so if you miss this podcast, you can always catch it on YouTube, SoundCloud, and iTunes. They're still available on there. And many more things come from us on the website and also in terms of post-match reactions too. Thanks everyone for watching and more from us soon. See ya.
Thank you.